I just want the fellas out there to know it's not you. It's not you. It's not you. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more confusing as to what we're supposed to do, what we're not supposed to do, uh, there's an article out by the New York Times that was published quite a while ago, actually, as I record this, published back in August. I'm recording this in October. So, you know, a little late here. I don't know how I missed this article here, but we're going to put it on the screen here. But I want you fellas to know it's not you. So this says why women are weary of the emotional labor of, in quotation there, man keeping. As social as male social circles shrink, female partners say they have to meet more social and emotional needs. Let's see if I can get rid of this high player here. Listen, I heard about this article and I said to myself, I'm gonna check it out. And then I got to this first subtitle here, and I said, okay, this is I haven't read this article yet, so we're going to read it together. I'm going to give my live reactions to it. It is apparently free from the New York Times. So I feel fairly comfortable reading it since everyone can access it. So I'm assuming this is an opinion article that comes from their family portion, right? Why women are weary of the emotional labor of man keeping as social circles shrink. Well, who shrank the males' social circles? Who did that? Who invaded? Who sued so so women could get into men's spaces? Who started invading barbershops? Who started doing that? Who wanted to go on the men's trips? Who wanted to be around men all the time? Who wanted to be in their circles? Who said that, in different places, what about the girls? Who did all that? Female partners say they have to meet more social and emotional needs. We got this woman here. I guess she's doing it all, helping the men to grow, feeding the men because the men are such juvenile, unemotionally evolved, man children here by Catherine Pearson, published July 28, 2025, updated August 1st. Justin Louis is I'm reading this for the first time, so if I mess up people's names, is a licensed clinical social worker in Brooklyn who specializes in therapy for men. When he sees a new client, one of the first things he asks is, who can you talk to about what's going on in your life? Much of the time, Mr. Louis said his straight male clients tell him that they are rarely open up to anyone but their girlfriends or wives. Now, this was a phenomenon. Of course, I'm going to stop and read this kind of break this down a little bit to give my thoughts about it, right? Rarely open up to anyone because men have trust issues, right? If you're seen as weak, if you're seen as you can't handle it, if you're seen you can't make it, then this is what happens. And then they try to open up to someone, and the girlfriends and wives apparently are complaining about this. They don't want to deal with that either. And for the record, I advocate for this subtitle here for men to have more social circles. I'm definitely advocating for that. The barbershops, the hunting trips, fishing trips, golf trips, golf outings more than once a month. You got to talk to someone. I definitely advocate for that. Their partners have become their unofficial therapists, he said, doing all the emotional labor. I have a problem with that as well. I'm going to have a problem with a lot of this because I'm coming to the realization. I'm not a licensed clinician or anything like that. I'm just doing a lot of some search and research behind the scenes here. That one of the biggest problems that we're having in modern day times is we don't we have monetized this therapist role. We have monetized this therapist role, and we don't have the friends. We don't have the hunting trips, the fishing trips. When we go back to primitive times, right? The men will be gone for hunting trips and fishing trips, fighting wars, elk, chasing down different big game, etc. For days at a time. And that was a time to bond and to talk and have conversations. Yeah. So now we don't have that anymore. So they go to the office, come home, and they can't open up to guys at the office many times. They may feel like it because it's not safe. Men are competition basis as well. They're going to try to exploit any type of weaknesses. If you come home and want to talk about your issues because you want to let it out because we've heard you. Men need to open up more. Men need to open up more. This so so big was this issue that they wanted men to open up and share their thoughts, intimate moments, vulnerabilities, you name it. That it became it became a trending topic. Right, here's relationships and dating tips. Right here from Simple Psychology. Right, how do you get a man to open up, to emotionally open up to you? I'm not going to read through this, but you can go over to Simple Psychology and read this, right? How to get a man to open up to you emotionally is a question many women ask themselves, and there's no simple answer. Building a strong foundation of trust and having the right approach and patience are essential ingredients. Listen, it's not you guys, right? It's not you. Maybe you feel he's not sharing what's on his mind or emotionally closed off. You might be looking for a stronger, you might be, well, you as a woman, I'm assuming, right? You might be looking for a strong emotional and intellectual connection, but aren't sure how to achieve that. It's important to remember that historically, most men have been socialized to believe that showing feelings is a sign of weakness. They're not encouraged to be in touch with or open up about their feelings as much as women are. The narrative they grew up as boys don't cry and suck it up. That being said, men are very open and comfortable with their emotions. It depends on upbringing, personalities, attachment style. So, getting a guy to open up to you means considering these factors. Of course, being open and honest and emotionally intimate relationship isn't only up to you, it's up to the man in your life must work on it too. So here they worked on it. They heard you. They worked on it. They heard you and they worked on it. I don't want to read that. That's not the focus of this. We're going back to the New York Times article here. We're going back to the New York Times article. I just want to show that they've heard you, right? That particular role now has a name, man keeping. The term coined by Angela Poisio Ferreira, a postdoctoral fellow at Stanford University, has taken off online. It describes the work women do to meet the social and emotional needs of men in their lives, from supporting their partners through daily challenges and inner turmoil to encouraging them to meet up with their friends. What I've been seeing in my research is how women have been asked or expected to take on more work to be a central, if not the central, piece of a man's social support system, said Dr. Ferrera said, taking care to note that the dynamic isn't experienced by all couples. The concept has taken on a bit of a life of its own, with some articles going so far as to claim that man keeping has ruined dating. Okay, we're gonna read that one here. And driven women to celibacy. So after all this, right? In the article I read from Simple Psychology from a year ago, we've been hearing all that. A year later, in article terms, obviously this phenomenon about men opening up or women desiring for men to open up and become more emotionally available has been going on for quite some time. And I've talked about that and I've had ladies on the show and reviewed videos. You can go back in the archive where women say we want men emotionally available men. We've got the money, we've got the education, we've got the careers, we've got the social mobility on our own. What we need is an emotionally available man. Well, now here's this article written fairly recently as I record this, talking about, listen, it's ruined dating and it's driven women to celibacy. You don't know what you want. I had a clip about that. I can't find it. It's definitely I definitely clipped it and played one of my lives before one of my warm up videos. I had to go through all my warm up videos to find that clip, and I'm definitely gonna do that one day and just clip it if somebody else finds it. But it's a cartoon, and it's obviously somebody who was having a conversation, and then they talk in the conversation. They were saying, the guy's complaining, what do you want? What do you want? And the woman turns and whispers into his ear, we don't know what we want. We talked to Dr. Ferrara and other experts about what man keeping is and isn't, and how to tell if it has seeped into your relationship. Man keeping it isn't just emotional intimacy. Oh, I thought they wanted that. Dr. Ferrara, who researches male friendship at Stanford Clayman Institute for Gender Research, and Dylan Vergara, a research assistant, published a paper on man keeping in 2024. After investigating why some men struggle to form close bonds, a growing, well-documented issue. I'm not convinced of that, but we'll check it out here. In a 2021 survey, 50% of men said they didn't have any close friends, up 3% from 1990. This is an emergency. 15%. And I'm not saying that that's not important. I'm not trying to trivialize this, but we've been hearing about this male loneliness epidemic and this, that, and the other, and it's 15% of men. So if you got 100 men in the room, 15 of them, 15, 1 5. That means 85 have someone to talk to. And this is some emergency. We got all this going on. We got all this going on in this country. You know, ICE raids and you know, rappelling from helicopters and this, that, and the other to in Chicago. And this is what we're dealing with here. 15%. In 1990, nearly half of young men said they would reach out to friends when facing a personal issue. 3 decades later, just over 20% said the same. Okay. So they didn't have any close friends. In 1990, nearly half of young men said they would reach out to friends when facing personal issue. 3 decades later, just over 20% said the same. I'm listening. I'm advocating for men having someone to talk to. Um, I got to read that research because it doesn't make sense to me. But Dr. Ferrara found that women tended to have all of the nodes of support they were going to for problems, whereas men were more likely to be going to just just them. She said. She says man keeping as an important extension of the concept of kin keeping, the work of keeping families together that researchers have found tends to fall disproportionately on women. Could it be that men and women are just different? I mean, we just have different social lives, socialized differently, probably even a little bit of innate inherent traits and attributes that men have, and women just are more social in that way. Guys are more standoffish, more concerned about who is and who could be a threat to them, to their family, to their loved ones. So they tend to be a little bit standoffish, so they don't get fooled and tricked as easily as others. Eve Tilly Colson, 37, was relieved to stumble upon the concept of man keeping on social media. Miss Tilly Colson, who lives in LA, is happy in her relationship with her boyfriend of nearly 7 months, 7 whole months, and describing him as emotionally mature, funny, and caring. They make a good team, but Miss Tilly Colson finds herself offering a fair amount of social and emotional scaffolding. Oh my God. We have a great time, 7 whole months. He's emotionally mature, but he wants to talk to him. I gotta prop him up and tell him he's special and tell him he's good, tell him he's making it, tell him he can do it. He can go for that promotion. He can go to that job. He can do it. I thought you wanted that. I thought this is what you wanted. Men just think this is what you wanted. Her role as a de facto social director of relationship includes more social concerns tunes. Two, when are we going to meet each other's parents? When are we going to out on our first vacation together? She said. And if all that onus is on me to kind of plan, then I also feel all the responsibility if something goes wrong. Well, God forbid if you take any responsibility if something goes wrong. Her role as de facto social director of relationship includes more serious concerns. When are going to meet each other's parents? Listen, lady, if you're going out with 7 months and you haven't met his parents yet. You sometimes you just can't make this up. You've been going out with this guy for 7 months and you haven't met his parents yet. Vacation. This is the type. This could be the type of trickery and the type of emotional safeguarding of a man's heart that he's trying to keep himself free and safe from, because he knows what's out there and he wants to be very careful about who he wants to meet his parents. He wants to be very careful about who he invests his vacation time and money with. Could that be it? Could it? I'm just throwing stuff at the wall here to see what sticks. Man keeping put a word to her feelings of imbalance. Man keeping put a word to her feelings of imbalance. I feel responsible for bringing the light to the relationship. Listen, I mean, she wants men to lead. I guess, this is about leadership. She's feeling. I think what this is telling me is she doesn't like being in this quote unquote leadership role. Right? When are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? She doesn't want. She don't want to make those decisions. So I think that what I'm hearing is that men. She wants the man to lead. Here, we're going to go here. We're going to do this. We're going to whatever bring light or whatever in a relationship. Here's what we're going to. Here's what we're going to do. So all this other stuff that they talk about, you need to throw it in the trash. I don't know, because in another month or two or another year, on Simple Psychology or some other similar website, there'll be something else saying where are the men at? They're showing too much leadership. They're being too bravado. How come he don't want to listen to my thoughts about something? If you go by this and listen to this, you'll be so schizophrenic, so out of whack, so out of balance, so out of touch. You'll be running yourself ragged, vacillating between side to side. What's up? What's down? Her partner, Glenn, 37, who agreed to speak to the New York Times but asked us to use his first name only. Yeah, Glenn doesn't want to be crucified. Yeah. Said his gut reaction when his girlfriend first described man keeping to him was that it would seem consistent with what he had seen play out in many heterosexual relationships. He wondered, okay, but is that bad? If you got to do all this work and want to meet parents and go on vacation or ask a question about going on vacations and do the social scaffolding, whatever that would be, is that such a bad thing? That's what the guy's asking. Listen, the guy, I just want to chill out and just have a good time. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're in a moment where women are speaking up about how drained they are by this dynamic, said Justin Pierre, who runs a therapy practice in Seattle that focuses on relationships and men issues. Miss Tilly Colson, who is also a content creator, even made a post TikTok about it. All right, let's go watch this TikTok here. Let's see if we can find this TikTok. All right, so we're gonna watch this. This is her TikTok here, and this is what she's talking about here. She's sick of it. Right?
The male loneliness effect, what you don't know, and how it affects women. I recently read a really interesting article about this, and the main point was men need to stop depending on women because it's causing this phrase called man keeping. And this is because the male loneliness epidemic is more than just men not being able to find fulfilling relationships. It's men utilizing women to be their entire emotional support network, to be their entire social network. It's men getting into relationships and putting all of their emotional needs on their significant other. Why? Because they're not taught at a young age societally to embrace those friendships with males. Not taught to invest in those emotional friendships with males. Societally accepted.
I've yet to see this research. Maybe I don't know how much of a deep dive that I need to go into this. Where's the research that said as a young boy, you're told not to relate to other boys? Don't we put them in football? We put them in sports. We put them in other leagues and boys again, boys scouts and boys clubs was invaded. Boys scouts was invaded. What are we talking about here? Where's this? I'd love to see this research. I'd love to see this research where we're saying that men have been deliberately told not to do these types of things. All right, let's continue on here.
For two men to go watch sports together because then they can sit side by side and talk about heavy topics, but that you're never going to see them at a restaurant across the table from each other talking or discussing heavy topics. Loneliness epidemic is more than them not being able to find fulfilling relationships. It's them literally being lonely because they put all of their impetus, all of their emotional needs on their significant other. So if they don't have a significant other, they are so lonely and desperate for that love, that attention. In turn, that means that when that male gets in a relationship, that woman has to provide it all. Because the man does not have his own emotional relationships and own friendships, he's relying on the woman for social engagement. Because he hasn't developed friendships with other men to talk about his fears, his concerns, his issues, he now relies on his significant other for that. Women are now resenting that and not wanting to get in relationships wherein they're just dumped on and the provider. So the tagline to this is men need to stop depending on women. We no longer depend on men financially. They need to not depend on us emotionally.
What are we here for? I don't know what we're here for. I don't know what we're here for. So that's her with that absolute gibberish nonsense. This is what's going on here, guys. This is what's going on here. 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 You got to lead. You got to lead from the front. You got to take your emotions Yes, find a partner or two, not just sit at the game at a bar, drinking your problems away, but yes, have a couple of friends that you can get together with. Again, women have invaded football games and football parties and all this. You've invaded every single space, and now you're complaining about it. You've invaded every single space, and now you're complaining about it. Male social disconnection is a larger problem. Rather than viewing, maybe this will get to the heart of what I want to see the research about. Rather than viewing man keep as an internet approved bit of therapy speak used to dump on straight men, experts say they see it as a term that can help sound the alarm about the need for men to invest emotionally in friendships. I don't know what they're talking about. We went over the numbers, right? I don't know what they're talking. The reality is, no person can meet all of another person's emotional needs. I definitely agree with that. Said Tracy Dalglish, a psychologist and couples therapist based in Ottawa. Men need those outlets as well. Men need social connection. Men need to be vulnerable with each other. So then, stop invading their spaces so they can have that time to talk. Stop invading their spaces. Open up the boys clubs to boys again. Open up the YMCA to men again. Open up. Uh, um, uh, um, all different team sports just for boys. Um, open these particular places up, cigar bars, etc. You name it, where men had these places. And listen, this is why a lot of formations of gangs started, because they didn't have any kind of social outlet for, in particular, for young men to do. They were kept out of boys clubs. They were kept out of um, Boy Scouts, etc. Right? So they form their own. And unfortunately, in many cases, they turn negative. So let's find some good, healthy outlets for these men to do. Mr. Pierre said finding additional sources for emotional support does not require going from 0 to 60, adding that deepening friendships can happen in these smaller steps that are more manageable. He might encourage a client to share something new about himself with a friend he already has, for instance, or invite a friend he normally sees only in one context to do something new. A friendship concept sometimes referred as repotting. Oh my God. If his male clients are reluctant to put themselves out there in that way, he tells them that developing relationships is not about replacing their romantic relationship, but strengthening it by widening the emotional foundation underneath your life by investing in friendships. I think the men know how to do this. There's just a certain uh, reluctance to doing this, again, because they don't want to be seen as weak. If you do this, let's just say they do this repotting. Oh Lord, let's just say they do this repotting on their job, right? And then you open yourself up to that, uh, and things go wrong on your job. Will this be used against you? Could this be held in some way if you drink too much, say too much? So there's a little bit of thoughtfulness that has to be put into this about how a man is going to proceed in the world, because again, he's going to have to be careful as to who he lets into his social circle. And yes, I definitely agree with having a social circle. I prefer to see between 4 to 5 guys, 3, 4, 5 guys, somewhere in there, so you can really talk to, because one guy might be busy, etc. So you would be able to out and hang out with someone else, and you definitely need to be able to get it off your chest. And again, I think that therapy has become a replacement for just good old fashioned friendship. I absolutely agree with that. There might be some, I'm not saying that there's no validity to this. I'm not saying that there's no validity to it. But you should be able to have conversations in real life with someone. A lot of guys are going to online internet friendships, particularly younger guys. They have their circle of friends, but there might be something that's going on there where you need to have someone who's in the room with you to talk to. The death of a parent, found out about a new sickness, trouble at work, etc. Where you need somebody in the room with you who can tell you, okay, here's, first of all, I'm going to listen to with an empathetic ear, and then second of all, how we're gonna come up with some strategies about how we're gonna make it through this, and I'm gonna check on you from time to time to make sure that you're doing okay. I don't have any issues or problems with any of that. But some of the Some of the challenges men face in making strong connections are societal, said Reeves, president of American Institute for Boys and Men, a think tank and author of Boys and Men. Many institutions and spaces where men used to organically make friends have eroded, he said, like houses of worship, civic groups, and even the simple workplace. Men used to be able to put themselves in these institutional settings, and it's kind of happened around them, he added. That's not just happening so much anymore. Men do have to do more, be more assertive. I'm finding that even in my own life. For Miss Tilly Colson and Glenn, talking about man keeping explicitly has helped ease the burden. Glenn admitted that partly he thought his girlfriend just liked taking the reins socially. But when she explained how it felt to act as a default emotional manager in a relationship, he began to see how things could feel lopsided, he said. So he felt downtrodden and beat down by his woman. Dude, you got to lead, man. You got to lead. You can't talk to your woman about this stuff. You got to lead. No matter what they said, no, no, you can't listen to that. You don't listen to that. I don't listen to that. I put more effort in to try even things out, he said. An earlier version of the article misstated that the time had passed between two surveys results of socialized Americans was 3 decades, not 2. Okay. All right. So that's that article. It's free over there. I read the whole thing there. So let me pause this for a second here. Let me pause this for a second here. All right, so this comes from the New York Post. Man keeping is ruining dating for women who are tired of relationship burnout. I'm not your therapist. They don't want to hear your problems, guys. They don't be fooled by this. They don't want to hear your problems. Turns out the reason she's not texting back might be because you treated her like your shrink. A recent study from Stanford has officially named the emotional labor sucking the life out of straight women man keeping, and it's driving them straight out of the dating pool. The term refers to exhausting, unpaid gig of managing men's mood, stress, and social lives, all while trying to keep their own mental health afloat. From decoding their partner's emotional constipation to playing middleman with his buddies, women are being cast as living therapists, social secretaries, and emotional scaffolding. In the U.S., about 1 in 5 men claim they have no close friends. Again, that's 20%. Man, that's 20%. Said Stanford postdoctoral fellow and developmental psychologist Ms. Dr. Fierza during a talk at Claimant Institute facility faculty. Here's a woman who's just sick of this dude, right? She is just looking at him with utter disgust. In comparison to women's social networks, men's social networks in the UK and the US tend to be thinner in depth, less frequent in emotional disclosure, and more rarely relied on for support. Basically, he has no one else to talk to, so he trauma dumps on you. Listen, you guys got to, if you guys are doing that, you got to stop doing it. They clearly don't want to hear it. No matter what they said, I don't want to hear it. Fiora argues that this male loneliness epidemic has just hit him isn't just him problem, it's a her burden, and it's pushing women to pause in relationship altogether. According to Pew Research, this 38% of single women are actively seeking love compared to 60% of men. That math adds to one thing: women are opting out of being therapists with women. I don't know if they can make that connection. I don't. I mean, there could be other reasons that the women are choosing not to date. This is the labor that women take on to shore up less losses in men's social networks and reduce the burden of this isolation of families on the heterosexual bond itself on men. I'm not going to read the rest of this. We can read to see the rest of that nonsense there. So this comes from the New York Post. I clicked on one of the links there, and it said, "It's therapy, bro. Summer, how getting mental health helps make men more attractive to women." So you can scroll down through this therapy in 2025, the hottest the hottest health craze, what women want. This should be interesting here. Then, of course, there are the women in their lives, the ones they're hoping to attract. Women want to be with men who are self-aware, emotionally intelligent, and good listeners, because you got to be a good listener. You got to be a good listener, guys. You and not them. You with the capacity to notice, feel, validate, step outside of themselves, or really care for each other. Said Ginsburg. That's your job. You hear that, guys? That's your job. The more that men can become vulnerable and in touch with their emotions, the better their lives will be. They want to be with men who have both humility and confidence and are not afraid to reflect, grow, call themselves out, and communicate. She notes that dating apps now have prompts that reference therapy, including my therapist said and you fill in the blank. This is a testament to how therapy rhetoric is becoming the way to letting your guard down and building connection with others, she explained. Psychotherapist Dr. Catherine Smerling said man in therapy are seen as green flags to young women, showing that they want to understand themselves more. They are interested and curious about the ways they can better themselves, which means they can bring up emotional intelligence and care to a romantic relationship. You know what emotional intelligence means? You know what that term means? Emotional intelligence. You can look it up. Look this up. Emotional intelligence means yes, you can center yourself and control your own emotions, but you're also able to do what? Control the emotions of the people around you. You're able to be in tune with them and help manage the situation. They don't want to manage your situation. They want you to be emotionally intelligent. That's what they want from you. They don't have to be that way. You got to sit there and listen to it. This is crazy. We also hear a lot more about the importance of men embracing their emotions and not bottling things up. That is necessary for men to be vulnerable if they want a healthy relationship. All right. In fact, a survey released in May by the dating app Hilly, there's a dating app called Hilly, found that 55% of Gen Z women refuse to date a man if he's not willing to go to therapy, and 45% find people in therapy more attractive. The number bumps to 55% for millennial men, women. Self actualization, emotional literacy, authentic confidence, humility, and ability to make healthy choices will naturally make someone an attractive mate and better partner in relationship, romantic or otherwise. Again, so this whole thing about going to therapy, and I'm not completely speaking about it in a negative way, but it's really about having friendships. We have replaced human connection, human friendships with therapy because we're busy, because we have lives, because we got issues, and all that. And again, because men's spaces have been invaded, the barbershops, the churches, the men's groups at churches, again, boys clubs, boys scouts, all of these places have been invaded, and when we do open up, it's somehow punished in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So I'm not completely dumping on that, but this I'm not completely convinced it's about this male loneliness epidemic. Do men need to open up more and have conversations with their friends? Absolutely. Do they need to get out of the house and get out the video games and find someone who they can talk to? Absolutely. So yeah, this is what we're dealing with here. All right. So I was looking at a video here. Let's see here. Let me see. Uh, I was contemplating whether I was going to read through this article here from the New York Times Magazine. Where have all my deep male friendships gone? I have many guy friends. Why don't we hang out more? So this is written by a guy here, Sam Graham Felson, fairly recently as well, May 25th, 2025. So you guys go over there, read that. So listen, I'm going to say here, right? So male spaces have been invaded, and you got to figure out, why you don't. Guys are busy. Uh, guys are busy, and all that. So you got to make time for your friends. If you want more friends, you certainly do the investing. Certainly ask them to come over to your house, watch a game, go meet once a week, or as often as possible. I don't always suggest having a beer, but you can go over, have a coffee, whatever. Just hang out with your boys. Just hang out. Go to breakfast. From my time in church, right? Even as a grown adult, right? We would just go to breakfast every now and then, right? Just hang out. Just come in, check up on each other. I think that there's merit in. I think that there's some merit to that. That you got to get together, have conversations, and all that. And I'm not in the camp. I hear the conversation about being, video games and chatting on that. I think that there's something to that. Do I? And I think that there's something to getting together in real life and having those conversations. I think there's plenty of men who are on these particular online spaces, particularly in the black man's sphere, where we get together, just have long conversations, and get to talk to one another. But the deep emotional connection about, well, who can I call on, who can I go to, when and if I got a death in the family, when and if I'm going through a divorce, those take cultivation, and that takes trust, and that takes human connection, eye to eye, face to face, being in the room with one another. And so, what I do think we can do in this particular space is have some type of meetup group. We can, and you got to do it virtually, in my estimates. You got, if you start off virtually, and then if you're close enough, within a couple of at least an hour, maybe even 2 hours. Meet up for coffee. Meet up. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to get together. We're just going to meet up here. We're just going to spend a couple of hours together, getting to know each other. A group of us just talking, hanging out, seeing what interests we have, and things along those lines. Right. I do think that there's merit to that. I do think that there's merit to that. What I do want to stress here is that you have to take control of your own life. You have to display some confidence and some leadership, because what has been completely apparent to me is that you're going to get mixed messages from the outside world about what you should do, and particularly what women want. They want you to be emotionally intelligent because they want you to be able to regulate not only your own emotions, but then the emotions of other people around you, including hers. This is not a pejorative. And then women are saying that they don't want to do this type of emotional labor. They don't want to take the lead. She don't want to plan dates, and when we're going to meet each other's parents, and when we're going to do this, and when you're going to go on vacation. They want you as a man to lead. So what you as a man have to do is get yourself together mentally, financially, physically, get yourself together, and so that you can lead, and so you can exhibit confidence at all times. That's what they want, right? So all this other egalitarian stuff that they always talk about, we read through the articles. They don't mean that. They think that they do. They think that they do, but they don't. Because the moment that you have to do something, well, now we want to get out the dating pool. It's ruined dating. Man keeping is now ruined dating. All right. All right. Well, let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. Much love and peace.